Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Vanilla Minecraft. I'm just over here tweaking some stuff around our volcano just a little bit. We're not actually going to work on this today, but I figured I'd take care of some little things. We do still have a few big things to do here. Obviously, like I said last time, I want to redo the smoke somehow and make that feel a little bit better. And I forgot to mention, but a few of you brought it up, I do also want to redo the area under the water as well. And we're actually going to wait until 1.14 to do that. The reason being that we have our coral reef here, and I would like to tie that into that as well. So until we can update that, we're going to hold off on doing anything underwater around our island for the most part. And we can also take advantage of the magma blocks once 1.14 lands, so we can kind of have volcanic vents and stuff like that. So that should probably be pretty cool. For today, though, what we're actually going to do is try and take care of some other problems around the island. Most notably, there are certain aspects of the island that are just old and outdated, and they don't really match the direction we're taking the island currently. So we've been gradually redoing the surface of the island and, making the trees more interesting and giving the terrain more life and stuff like that. Obviously, that is an ongoing process, and we still have a lot of the island to do. But there's one other place that we really haven't touched, and that is the underground areas. Most notably, because we have this kind of ancient hidden civilization theme going on, where everything's built inside of caves, everything is connected together with a cave network, and most of this cave network is kind of boring looking. So, these older caves that I did probably before this series started, they're okay. They're not terrible, they convey what they need to, but they're also just, like I said, kind of bland and kind of boring. If we compare a cave like this one to this offshoot over here, this just feels way cooler. It's rougher looking, it's got more life going on, there's stuff like water dripping through the ceiling, and little particles from floating gravel, like right there was a little bit. It just feels way more lively and way more interesting in here than it does in the other caves. We never use this, by the way. I didn't think about that when I was walking down here, but this enchanting room, I don't know that I've walked in here once since I finished it. That is really depressing. I'll have to come down here and use it. Anyway, back to the caves. We really need to redo these caves and make them feel more like this one. Now, that's going to take a little while. There's quite a few caves around our island, and they snake all over the place. But I think that'll help things a lot when it comes to when we go down and actually walk around inside of our builds and stuff like that. It'll make things feel much more finished. On top of that, we can also go into some of the rooms that are cave-like themselves, like our storage room, for example, and add more detail to this. So this ceiling, as cool as it is, as much as I like the aesthetic, it's not very detailed. So if we were to add in some stalactites and maybe some rougher stone patches and maybe even some particle stuff, like, again, the dripping water or the floating gravel, that can help this place out quite a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and start this process after I eat some cake. I'm going to go ahead and start this process on this cave first, and maybe we'll tie it into the rooms around it as well, and we'll see what it turns out like and kind of go from there. So, I have redone this entire cave system here. Now, I'm sure a few people are not going to like the style that we're going with. This very messy and overgrown style. I'm sure it's going to feel a little bit too busy to some people, but personally, I think this feels so much better than what it did before. The walls are more textured and have more kind of a cave-like feel to them. And of course, we have the little particles coming in from the obscured water sources and the floating gravel blocks. I think that feels pretty cool. Down here, I did remove the grass that was in here. It just felt a little bit weird to have grass growing down in this cave. Not that it's not strange that we have leaves growing through our stone everywhere, but the grass was just a step too far, I feel. So I think that looks better, though I do need to tone down the hidden lighting in this corner at least. But I like that. And then, of course, we came all the way down and continued this down to our brewing room, which is pretty good. Obviously, this is all just, it's our cave network. It's just to get us from point A to point B. We're not really going to spend much time looking at the caves themselves, but I do think this feels better. Now, I did also go across and do the same thing to our netherwort farm, like the actual room for the farm itself. Not quite as noticeable in here. Obviously, it's a pretty subtle change compared to like the entire farm area itself. And we do still need to come down here and renovate this. I'm on the fence about replacing the entire farm with something different, but we definitely need to replace this area and do something cooler with it. We actually talked about that quite a while ago, and I still haven't done it, but I do have a few ideas. Maybe we'll get to that in the near future. We'll see. And after doing that, I doubled back and also did the same process to our storage room, which again, not very noticeable. If I had done this off camera and just ran through, I doubt many people would have been able to tell. But if you do actually go and kind of stare up at the ceiling, it's kind of nice. It's an extra bit of detail. So I like that. I really wish I could get rid of the string though. That is driving me bonkers. It's always driven me bonkers, but now that I have a decent ceiling, this is just more annoying. We need a way to stop vine growth without string being involved. It's just the worst. Anyway. Oh, and I also redid this little cave over here. This is just a little connector that leads out to our animal farm area, which, come to think of it, that's actually another area that could use a little bit of love. We may jump back over here and take care of that later on. We'll probably have time to do that. We'll see how things go. If not, we'll do it probably in the near future. But for right now, we're going to head over and take care of another cave system. There's two main cave networks on my island. We took care of one. The other one is in our farming area over on this side. So if we go down here, right here, this cave system, and this is how our caves used to look, if you forgot. This one's got quite a bit of greenery going on in it. But yeah, this is what they look like. They were so bland compared to it. And this one's way more cramped than I remember it being. I'll have to expand this out a little bit, I think. But you get the idea. This is what it looks like, and we need to change this and kind of get this up to par with the cave that we just finished. And including this area as well. And then there's one more cave right over here on the other side of our crop and sugarcane farms. There's this cave right here that leads to a few other farms. So I'm going to take care of that stuff and get these caves knocked out, and then we can move on to some other stuff. So that's another set of caves done. Now, this one doesn't feel quite perfect to me. I may still come in here and modify this a little bit. It still feels a little bit cramped and whatnot. I probably should have reshaped it a little bit more before I started, but it at least feels a bit better now. Again, we got the whole particle things and the extra rough texture and stuff like that. You know the drill. We just kind of did that across this entire area, including here in our farms, which still looks kind of crazy. I may still want to make a different melon and pumpkin farm here on the island at some point, but now that we have the one up on the floating platform, we don't really need one, so kind of on the fence about that. We'll see how it goes. And of course, we continued our cave renovation stuff into our sugarcane and crop farms as well. Granted, the ceilings in here are so dark that it's kind of hard to tell, and I imagine that's particularly true on YouTube, but I think it was worth doing. It's at least a little bit more detailed when you do look up at the ceiling, so I think that's nice. Granted, I don't think you can actually see the particles unless you're up here on the bridge. I think you're too far away down on the floor for them to render. Anyway, we also redid the cave over here, which is just a short cave that leads to another farming area, and that farming area I didn't redo, even though it does have kind of a cave-like ceiling, and that's because I'm probably going to redo this entire room at some point. This one has always felt just a little bit rushed and a little bit strange to me. It's just kind of a weird-feeling room, so we're probably going to change this up, and I didn't want to bother redoing the ceiling in that case. But I think with that, we're actually done with renovating our caves. We really only have those two main networks on the island, and there are a couple other small ones, but they don't really lead to anything yet, so we'll renovate those when we need to. Anyway, now that we're done with the cave renovations, there's a couple other things that I think we can take care of as far as kind of catching up old parts of our island. And one of those is our animal farms. We looked at those earlier, and I mentioned that maybe we'd get back to them, and I think that that would be a good thing for us to do today. So, we don't really see these on video too often, so if you're not familiar with them, these are my animal pens. They're all roughly the same thing, just a too-tall pit in the ground kind of built into the hillside, and you can push a button to hop out. My sheep are still Christmas-colored from when I did the tree, which is half burned down, by the way. I'll have to show you guys that at some point. But, yeah, this area, it could use a little bit of love and care. The stonework could use a little bit of kind of messing up and stuff like that, and I think this path could use a little tweaking as well. And maybe while we're at it, we'll just give this entire area our kind of island renovation theme that we usually do. Maybe we'll switch up the trees and kind of clean up the terrain a little bit. And that should be a good third project here today. So let's go ahead and get to that and see how it turns out. So, here is this area so far. Now, do keep in mind that this was just an impromptu kind of cleaning up of this area. It wasn't really meant to be the final form of it, and we're definitely going to be doing more stuff over here at some point, though I'm not entirely sure when that'll be. But for right now, I think it's okay. It kind of matches the rest of our island aesthetically now, or at least the newer areas, with the slightly customized trees and the more grass and the bushes and the melon patches and the exposed stone. Though, again, there's going to be quite a lot of changes over here. Like this bit, for example, looks a little bit strange, and that's because this area that it connects to wasn't redone. And that's because we may want to build a path up to our storage room. So, you know, up there is the entrance to our storage cave, and we've got this super duper steep hill leading up to it, and I can probably pull off a path leading to it, but I'm on the fence about whether that's a good idea or not. I have to see if there's a good way I can do it without making it look like it's obviously a staircase. So I'll have to experiment with that, and there's a few other things in the area as well. For example, the backside over here towards the ocean is just kind of a bland chunk of dirt. I'm not entirely sure what we're doing over here quite yet. The obvious answer would be to just turn this into cliff faces that overhang over the ocean, but we may want to do something a little bit more unique. So I've left all of that untouched for the time being until I kind of decide what's going on with that. But the areas in general and the animal pens and stuff, I think they feel a little bit better now. So that's good. And I think that I'm going to also have to call it here for today, unfortunately. I know it's a little bit short, and I know we didn't tackle anything really cool and interesting today, but unfortunately I just didn't have the time. We'll try and do something a little bit cooler next time, hopefully. I at least plan on it. So hopefully that happens, and hopefully I have more time to make it happen. Currently, my schedule is a little rough, and other videos are the main cause of that. I'm trying to do several at the moment. 1.13 is right around the corner, as I'm sure many of you know, so I'm working on that. The texture video that quite a few of you requested, I've been trying to do that, but I don't know how. I know how I could do it. The issue is that the way that I would like to do it would end up being an hour long, just to try and give all of the good feedback and all of the insight into the textures and stuff like that that I would like to do. Yeah, it would be an hour-long video, and I don't think anyone wants that. So I'm trying to work out how to condense that down and still make a decent video out of it, but we'll see. And, of course, the whole new series thing that I keep bringing up and then not actually releasing. I'm actually halfway done with the first video for that, but I have a slight roadblock, working my way through it. In fact, I'm probably going to go work on that as this renders. So, for today, I'm going to call it here. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, even if it was a little boring. And hopefully next time we're doing something a little more interesting and a little more unique. So, thanks for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you guys next time.